Bear down, Bears fans. Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat, the designer, Courtney Cronin here at Hallis right after talking with Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles today. Got to hear a lot from the coach and the GM today, Courtney. I thought a little bit of insight maybe on Ryan Poles' part that he didn't intend maybe for it to go that way, but it sounded very convincingly that there may not be a star pass rusher from Vegas coming here, so we got to talk about that. I thought Ben Johnson really was in support of his quarterback today, and of course, we got some very serious injury updates to talk about. All that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Courtney, how are you today?
I'm good. It's weird being here where we're not talking about a coaching search that's about to start or months from now. Will they draft a quarterback? Will they get rid of the number 1 overall pick? What will they do with the haul? All of it.
Courtney, I don't even know anybody to draft. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't started draft coverage. I'm not a diehard college football person. It's on Saturdays. And, like, I'll clue in on a couple of people. I like, what's our boy, Jaquan Newton from Illinois, because I watch a lot of Illinois. But I was like, I couldn't tell you who an edge rusher is that's elite right now that I really want to go get. Oh, boy, from Miami. Looks really good. I don't even know his name yet. Ruben Bain, There he is. So it's going to be a weird offseason. An offseason of catch-up for us and for them, as they said, Ryan Poles talked about.
Yeah, like the schedule went further into their offseason, which is always it's a push and a pull. Like, it's a good problem to have because it means you're still playing, but then you're behind on free agency and trying to get the roster in a position where you know what your needs are going to be, who you're going to go after come March. But they have less time to do it. I think it's a good problem to have, though, 100%. Because you're not having to start over consistently. And I know Ben Johnson, his mindset of already being on to 2026 and how he's going to attack this offseason is that I'm already thinking ahead. Last year, which he keeps saying last year, I'm like, the season ended 3 days ago.
No, I love it.
No, I
That's
get it.
So real.
But I'm just like, I'm still stuck in last year trying to unpack, which felt like it was literally 3 days ago. But his approach and what Ryan Poles talked about and how they end up figuring where you move forward to first in the offseason, I think they arrived pretty quickly at that because they don't really have the extra time. I mean, you miss 2 weeks of the offseason. You're trying to play catch up. You also realize you have to take time off to step away from it. The message he gave to Caleb Williams is get away from football. Yeah. He's probably going to have to do the same, as much as he very much seemed full steam ahead on 2026 already and trying to get back to this level that they were at 3 days ago. But there's a lot of time. It doesn't feel like it to them, but there is a lot of time before September next year.
I really feel like Ben is what Tyson Bagent said. I think in a interview on Kevin Byard's pod that he does with Recap, and he was like, he ended up talking to Ben. He was like, "What are you going to do over, kind of the bye week, kind of over the break? Are you going to get away from football like you told us to do?" And he's like, "I can't turn it off." It's just like, that's how I feel Ben is. Like, Ben immediately was like, "All right, 2026, how do we address these issues? Where do we find these answers?" And listen, there's a lot of options for this Bears team out there, and it truly depends on how aggressive they want to be, which is kind of where I want to start, because I thought Ryan Poles possibly let us in on how aggressive they are going to be fixing probably the number one issue that most Bears fans and most people that watch the Bears would say was the problem this season. Not enough from the defensive line here. Everybody looks at the Maxx Crosby situation over in Vegas and goes, he hates them. They don't want to work with him anymore. They send him home to lose games. Max hates that. He's doing turnaround jumpers on a torn meniscus. Clearly, that's an opportunity for you to go get a player who's disgruntled and take advantage of that situation. We did that before with Khalil Mack, but this time you have the quarterback. I'm not saying it don't make sense, Chicago. But what Ryan Poles said today I thought was very telling. He said, when you do things that everyone wants you to do, you can get yourself in trouble. He kind of scoffed at, so no Maxx Crosby when Herb asked him that after, but I thought that's kind of the statement that he was making. Essentially, if you do what the people in the seats tell you to, you'll be sitting there with them and out of the job. Did that feel like the Bears are probably out on going, or trading for, I should say, one of those elite pass rushers? Because you could always sign a Trey Hendrickson.
Sure. I think with Crosby, there's a couple of things. Obviously, it's going to take multiple first-rounders, likely, to go get a player like that. Are you a pass rusher away from being a Super Bowl team? Maybe, but I still think that there's other areas on your defense that you have to fix. You have to address safety. You have to address, what's going to happen, opposite whoever that star pass rusher is.
Yep.
Is Montez Sweat still your guy? Because there are some scenarios where you could think of if you could upgrade where he was.
That spot, yeah.
Like, I'm not suggesting that they're thinking that they want to move on from Montez Sweat, but it's a question you have to ask yourself. So I don't know if that was him throwing water on the Crosby thing, but it definitely was an eyebrow raiser because you're like, all right, if, what is everybody telling him to do? What did he tell us that he was doing in early November? Like right at the trade deadline, he said, we checked in on just about every name imaginable when it was Myles Garrett's name brought up, Maxx Crosby, Trey Hendrickson. So kicking the tires on those guys, do you then try to spin the block and go have those conversations again to see if there's anything realistic that could happen? Sure. But it doesn't mean that it's going to happen here. Like that it's actually going to come to fruition. There is no question though that the pass rush is priority number one this offseason. And the way that he talked about the defense, the way he talked about Dennis Allen and how much credit he gave him for having to adapt every single week. Guys are up, guys are down. He still brought a lot of ideas and a lot of creativity to this defense. I'm sure he didn't want to be in that situation all the time. So to help him not have to constantly be scrambling, you should probably fix the weakest link on the defense. I mean, there's no way around it. It's just, there's one name everybody's zeroing in on. And the Bears, if they are, won't be the only team that wants to get Maxx Crosby. And you don't want to get into a bidding war and price yourself out of being able to do other things that you need to do on this roster.
Do you feel like, because I think here's the thing where, to me, it makes sense. Again, we don't know what Ryan's going to do. There's options there as well. You could just clear cap space, move on from some guys that maybe don't hurt you as much in the cap, and say Trey Hendrickson, would you like to walk over here and play for your old was he head coach? Or is he DC or was he his head coach too? Mm-hmm. Would you like to come play for your old head coach again? Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's a realistic option. It's one where it's going to be high priced and there's some concern on injury there, but there is an option to have that there. But you're having these conversations because you feel like the window is open right now. And in the NFL, you only get a couple of years to go after this. So it would be concerning to me if the mindset going into next season was we're not going to address it, we're just going to develop it. Because essentially that's what you're trying to do with what you saw in the beginning of Dayo Odeyingbo. You have to turn him into the player that is worth that contract. Yeah. That's an uphill battle that you're going to be in. Grady Jarrett is who he is. You love him for the leadership that he brings. You're not really going to see too much more there. I think Javon Dexter might be a player that you're looking at and saying, we might need to replace that guy. I love Austin Booker. I want Austin Booker to be out there. I kind of feel like DA is going to go, I need somebody with a bigger body to be able to set that edge and fit more of his defensive scheme. So there's a lot of this where you go, the window's open. You have to find a way to attack it. And it would be very tough for me to say you're going to go into another season where your best fix is maybe just develop a couple of more guys there.
The Odeyingbo one, like when Ryan Poles, I know we'll get to the injuries, but he was going through like the litany of guys who went through surgery and are on the way to rehabbing. Like he mentioned him. I was like, oh my God, I forgot about him for a second because he was only playing for the first 8 weeks. They spent big on the D line last year in free agency, from Grady Jarrett to Odeyingbo, and even getting Shamar Turner in the draft. That was a day 2 draft pick. I wonder.
Did you trade it for?
No.
Was he the trade or was Ozzie the trade?
They had one. I think
because we had 3 second-round picks:
it was
Luther,
39,
Ozzie,
56, and then wherever Shamar was drafted. But like, there's guys that they have that, however they come back from injury, you're trying to figure out, can they fit into the plans? Because they did spend pretty big up front last year, and that's not something that you can just say, okay, well, none of it worked. That means we have to go out and spend double big on someone like, a Maxx Crosby, which would be draft capital and the salary. So I think that you have to keep all of those options open. And I know Bears fans might not like this, but it's also thinking, have you pushed the envelope far enough with Dayo Odeyingbo to say, yep, we know what we've got with this is not going to work. Like, we need to move on, figure it out. Or might there be some untapped potential there that, I remember the time he got injured, they said, we were thinking about, we really liked him as a run defender, and kicking him inside on third downs, like, was what they wanted to go with. Now, can you get more out of it when he's healthy and you feel like you can develop him further? Might that preclude you from doing something else? I don't think it should, but the big swing that they have to make, if it's not Maxx Crosby, then who?
Yeah.
That's the big question they have to answer the next couple weeks before they get to the combine and start talking to these guys' agents.
And your who could be guys on this team as well. Like, you got a ton of free agents here. There's guys that have to be signed. I thought another thing that was very, whether you want to say eye-opening, raise the eyebrow, was when he talked about the safeties on this team, because it was brought up, Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard, what do you want to go with here? And is there a mindset where you can keep both of those guys, where if you do, you're spending a lot of money in DBs? And for me, where my eyebrow raised up was when he calls Kevin Byard a special player. He says he's somebody that, you want to have on your team, his leadership, his play on the field, all of that. And then he goes on to talk about the rest of the safeties and say we'll have to make a decision on them as well. Jaquan Brisker was included when he said he didn't name them. He literally just said the rest of the safeties. That felt like, okay, Kevin Byard's a special player, probably somebody they're going to focus on bringing back. Does that mean Jaquan's odd man out in this situation?
I think him naming Kevin Byard the way that he did, it's obviously letting him know we want you back here if we can make it work financially. He's in his early 30s. So the price that they would be willing to pay might not be what Byard feels like he wants on what very well could be his last contract. Even though he's been playing
the league in
football,
interceptions. Yeah.
Like he's going to think, I did this, I want to get paid for this, but teams don't want to pay for past production. They want to pay for future performance. The 2-year deal that they gave him in 2023, being able to mirror something like that, I feel like is the smart play here. But I don't think you can bring back both players. I think they're going to want to pay one of them and then go and draft the replacement. And the way that looks right now is that Byard gave you that production. We know he's a ball hawk. We know that he's done this several times in his career where he's had multiple interceptions in a season, led the league in interceptions during the one season. The one really good season he had in Tennessee.
Yeah.
But it's, I think that it's also a calculated approach. It's a message that the team, that the general manager is putting out into the media, so the agent sees it, so Byard sees it, so they know that when they come to the negotiation table, the Bears want to make something work. It's just got to work at their price tag.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is this isn't a situation. One, it's not a situation where I think that Ryan Poles is like, I didn't see enough from Jaquan. I think Jaquan literally, remember before the season started, we sat here and we said, what do you got to see from Jaquan to consistently even consider bringing him back? And it was, he has to be on the field consistently. He has to stay healthy. Jaquan Brisker is the one dude this season that really didn't miss a snap. Couple of plays here and there where he got banged up, goes out, comes back into the game. But Jaquan Brisker had an incredibly healthy season. He was one of a few DBs that did, and he answered a lot of the questions that you had. Now, the coverage numbers were a little bit worse this season. But I look at that and I say, well, yeah, when you got to try and cover guys for 6-7 seconds, heck, in that San Francisco game, 8 to 9 seconds, you're going to lose guys. And so your coverage numbers are going to look a little bit worse. I think I focus more on the pass rush there. But it is a very tough conversation when you hear Dan Graziano say that, it truly might just be that the Bears are priced out of the Jaquan Brisker sweepstakes here because he is a good player. Teams are going to want to pay for that production, and you're able to utilize him anywhere on the field. Is that a price where you want to be paying high dollar when you've already got Jalen Johnson under high price? You've already got Kyler Gordon at a high price. You got to make decisions on Deshaun, CJ, GJ, Kevin Byard. Like, it is a tough situation to be in, but that's a good spot to be in when you have good players.
Yeah, and cap planning, too, for the future. Like, is Tyreek Stevenson going to be in your plans a year from now? Like, Nashawn Wright, it factors into the more immediate term because he is a free agent. He signed a 1-year deal here. So do they think we can't let this player go? Yeah. You're not paying – if you're paying multiple DBs, they're not coming from the same position. There's just no way they could do that.
After what we heard, and I don't know if you saw this on the All-22, I went back and watched it. It looks terrible. After Jack said this yesterday on the pod because he was sitting right there that Tyreek essentially pulled the Washington game again after breaking up
when
Devontae Adams.
Byard's like, get over here.
Yes.
Like, when he ran to the corner, I'm like, is he going out the tunnel?
When you do that, listen, I love Tyreek. I want him here. I like him as a player. You got to learn the lessons, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think we saw why he probably wasn't playing that often in that moment. Like, it was just like, okay, well, he's fine. He's having a good game. And there it is. Okay, so we didn't learn our lessons from last season. DA ain't going to put up with that. And so it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening here with Tyreek Stevenson moving forward. Was there anything else from polls that you thought really stood out today in conversations that he had? I mean, like, he's not going to tell us anything about who he's going to sign or his mindset, but it did seem like there's a plan here to have to make. They kept saying, kept emphasizing, we have a bunch of decisions to make on the defenses.
Yeah, and that's where it all starts. Like, there are more questions about who is not going to be here on the defensive side of the ball than there are on the offensive side of the ball. Your offensive line is set. Left tackle, obviously, which he addressed,
that's a big question,
huge question. Your running back room, like, is DeAndre Swift on the roster next year? Like, I think they've got a solid mix back there. If you see a way to upgrade it, maybe you do that through the draft, and then you just kind of like keep rotating through. Eventually, when his contract is up, you don't, keep him beyond that. But like receiver, DJ Moore at the end, like his what he said about his fit and his role in this offense, because obviously, like, we still don't have any answers about what happened really on that play. I know Ben Johnson said there's a miscommunication, it falls on him. I don't know if I believe that, but I do think how Ryan Poles addressed what DJ Moore's role on this team is now and what it could be for the future. He doubled down that, like, I agree with DJ. I don't care about my stats. I don't care about, any sort of individual production. He's obviously made big plays for them this year, but he did say, like, the roster situation as far as like what that means going forward is something that they're going to have to discuss. Was that tipping his hand that DJ is not going to be on this roster? I don't think so. Yeah. But it is a huge question that they have to address, because if you know that Rome Odunze, if you think, okay, this year was just chalk it up to injury, chalk it up to, a second year, maybe he took a step back, then if you think he can really explode next year, then you could potentially say, we need to create some room there. Maybe we try to trade DJ Moore somewhere else or restructure the deal. Because I think that's to give them some cap flexibility. I think they're going to have to find a way to do that. But he is the most intriguing part outside of like defensive end and what they're going to do with their pass rush. I think DJ Moore and what his future holds here in Chicago or potentially somewhere else is a big question that we have to watch closely with his team the next couple of months.
I was so intrigued when you dropped it on Waddle and Sylvie that the independent
neurological
consultant went into the tent, and so you're wondering concussion. Then he goes back out there. When he left immediately after, the one thing I said was, usually when you leave immediately after, you're probably going to the training room or something's wrong, usually. Like, DJ Moore's highest paid player on the team. He usually talks. It was shocking to hear that he had left immediately, and I instantly went back to remember when Daboll sticks his head in the tent in Philly, and he's like, can he play? We've got Russ out here. Please let him play. And they like send him back out there, and then the Giants end up getting fined because he did have a concussion. I was like, I wonder if DJ was like, I'm not going to blow the spot up. Y'all not about to catch me out here lacking in my verbal skills at the end of this game and move up out of here. That was my speculation. A little speculation, just like
good maybe connecting.
Maybe DJ was saving the Chicago Bears in a tough moment there, and he wasn't fully healthy, ready to go. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with DJ. I do agree with you. I think that's the biggest concern probably heading into this offseason, because he does one of two things. One, he's a really good player, but two, he takes up the money at a position that it looks like you have a lot of really good young players. Luther Burden, every time he touches the ball, is amazing. And when the ball is thrown his way, he has a tendency to catch it. Rome Odunze, you saw a lot early on in the season. It did taper off. It kind of ties up with his injury timeline where you start to see it taper off. And maybe that was the reason that he never got back to it. But that doesn't explain the hands. Yeah. And I think that's the part that you have to have a real conversation about. When DJ Moore gets thrown the ball, for the most part, he's somebody who brings the football in. He did have a couple of drops there. And I thought that was telling too, Courtney.
When Ben Johnson
about it felt like we got a Ben Johnson today who was very much defending his quarterback in some of the tough moments that people want to attack him on. I mean, you've got the quote there. It's pretty much just
catch the damn ball.
Catch the ball.
Our quarterback is going to be a special player in this league. He said, like, I'm Caleb Williams, number one believer. Yep. But the thing about the receivers, we got to do a better job of catching the football next year. Yikes.
That's shots at everybody. It's not just DJ. It is at Rome Odunze. It is. I mean, Luther had a massive drop in that game. Colston has a big drop in that game, and it's it's not the ones that you get. You know, you have opportunity after opportunity to go out there and make plays. You can't ever forget the ones you don't get, though. And that first one to Roma Dunze, that is literally a walk-in touchdown. And he said as much. He's like, I catch that ball, it's a different game. Those are the ones that it's very difficult to forget. And I know at the end of the day, you look at Caleb and go, the stats aren't what you want to see. But that's a big reason why. I think the Bears were top 5 in drops in the NFL this season. That's a problem, and a real problem that's going to have to be addressed next season.
Yeah, Caleb, when he came to DJ Moore's defense on Monday, like, again, reiterating it was a miscommunication, said exactly what he thought DJ was doing, what he thought DJ was going to do, and then kind of how it played out with him, like, drifting upfield. He still didn't really let any of those guys off the hook, Moore included. He said, we need to have conversations about the small things, because if it's something that came up week 1, week 6, and then it's week 20, and you're still having the same issues of getting on the same page, there's something that has to be fixed. And when he mentioned working with the receivers this offseason, seems like that's something he's going to prioritize, because the chemistry issues popped up in a lot of moments this year. And how many times we've heard we just weren't on the same page.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear that phrase. I don't think any Bears fan's going to want to hear that phrase next year, because of how many times we heard it, because of guys coming up short. And maybe that's on Caleb for some of it too, but feels like Ben Johnson kind of sides with his quarterback on that one. Yeah. That's how I heard it, that him doubling down and our receivers need to catch the football. That doesn't seem like it's the quarterback needs to throw a better football.
Yeah.
And there were obviously moments where he did, but that's still, that was eye-opening for
it
me
is,
to see that.
It's very telling when you look at, and I know, you dive into the advanced metrics, advanced analytics, and Caleb Williams becomes a little bit more of a darling and in some metrics, right? Mm-hmm. You see him at that 69.7%, I think it was, adjusted completion percentage. You go, okay, well, what's the problem there? Then you look at the game and you see drops from OZ, you see drops from DJ, you see drops from Rome. Those are the ones where, and he's never going to be perfect, right? That's basically 70% if everybody caught every pass that was thrown their way. It's one of those things, though, where it is telling that I think Ben Johnson sees the quarterback that he expected coming into this season, and he's expecting the rest of the team to raise their level to that standard. That's partially on Caleb, too, though. Mm-hmm. And it was the one thing going into these playoff games that I said, you have to make sure that everybody is on your level. I think we saw it in that first Green Bay game where he snaps on the sideline at Luther Burden, who threw the mailbox up, and Caleb throws the interception because Luther doesn't run his route. I think you saw that too often. In both playoff games, we have interceptions that are on a guy kind of did his own thing.
Yeah.
And Caleb threw the ball to where it was supposed to be, and you don't get a catch there. So I want to see that improvement next season. I think you kind of heard that from Ben as well today, that, like, this isn't continuing on next season. You got to go back to square one, back down to the studs, and build this thing all the way back up. I love that we're hearing that from our head coach.
Yeah, and he was made no bones about how he doesn't think that the momentum from this year can carry over to 2026. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have the foundation in place and you don't have the pieces that you can continue to build around, but that was an admission to me, the way I heard that, of we won too many games that were in close fashion. Even Ryan Poles said, I wish we weren't the cardiac Bears. It's not like that's not his preference to have to be in all those games, because it meant that you were failing to even up the score, failing to take the lead, failing to punch the gas against these teams to where you were constantly in chase mode.
Yeah.
They don't want to do that next year. And I don't believe that the one score magic, I mean, we saw it with the Kansas City Chiefs in 2025. That stuff does not carry over from one year to the next.
No.
So to say that they're back at square one, back at the bottom, is probably right in a lot of ways to think about it. But they still have, that's why I think this whole season, I wrote it today at ESPN.com, they answered the most important question that they had to have at the end of 2025, and that's to know whether their quarterback was the right quarterback.
Yeah.
If that's your starting point for this offseason, there's so much more you can do now where you're not worried about, oh, do we have the right offense? Do we have the right play caller? Do we have the right coaches to coach this guy? All of that's solved. Okay, box checked. You might have some new coaches in here. Ben Johnson did say that, they've already gotten some permission slips in We know Eric Bieniemy is likely to go to the Kansas City Chiefs as their offensive coordinator.
Hilarious. Where's Nagy go?
I don't know. I mean, like you're getting fired on your day off. That's insane.
Well,
like, he thought he was getting
like,
the Titans job.
It literally was like, well, he's a free agent, so he's gone. And I kind of feel like they're just like, yeah, he's gone. It's over. Like, we're not even having the conversation on bringing him back. Bieniemy, come on back.
Yeah.
Like, that's
bizarre.
That's wild to me.
And there will be some moves on the defensive side of the ball. I've heard some names. Keep an eye on Jeremy Grant if they don't retain him, the defensive line coach. Really curious to see if Green Bay wants to get in on Al Harris at all, just because
the history that he has with the city, of course. That one I think is an interesting one because I don't believe there's a coaching relationship with anybody up there. But of course, he's been a part of that organization. He knows the standard, and those are there's two. Him and Antoine Randall are the two that I look at, and it's like, if you do want to be a head coach, can Randall get that just off of his leadership skills? He is an assistant head coach right now. He could take a position where he becomes a little bit more of a play caller, and you feel good about that, and then you get hired as a head coach, but there is no play calling opportunities for you here unless something goes terribly wrong for Al Harris or for Antoine Randall. And you love the leadership that those guys have, but are guys hiring coaches who are just leaders, or are they looking for play callers? I think more often than not, you see teams are going, we want guys that can call plays and be the head coach.
Yeah, and I don't think either of them, they're not getting head coaching opportunities. It would be more like on the coordinator level. Yeah. But Ben Johnson did not make it sound like he would block anybody. He said, I've had a 5-star staff my first year. Usually it doesn't happen in year one, as we've seen with coaching staffs here in the past. He's got a good core around him, and it does not sound like he's going to be willing to step in front of any opportunities anybody has, even if he is able to block it, because there are some moves that you would anticipate. Like, I know you and I talked weeks ago about Declan Doyle. Like, if he's an offensive coordinator here. Just because he might be calling plays or have an opportunity, I'm just using this as a hypothetical because we have not heard his name anywhere just yet. Ben could block that. So I'd be really curious to see, like, the next couple of weeks as we get towards the combine and most teams have their staff set, how does this one change even further? Because that's part of the equation of starting over for next year. They had so much success with the running back room this year. Number 2 in the NFL in explosive plays, number 2 in the NFL overall. How does that change with Eric Bieniemy all but out the door going back to Kansas City as their play caller? You're going to have to figure that there will be some, pretty significant changes, and you want to bring in some guys that can coach to the style that Ben has implemented with these coaches in year one.
And what I love about what he's done and what I loved about what he did in year one is almost like Mike Holmgren. When he was with Green Bay, like, there were so many guys that could call plays. We already are hearing Boston College's offensive coordinator, Will Lawing, left the program. The expectation is that he's a favorite to land here with the Bears because him and Ben were teammates in college.
And in what role?
Right? Is he coming in as the running backs coach? He played wide receiver in college. Is that maybe a little bit of preparation for Antoine Randall leaving? You know what I mean? Like, but you're getting guys who, you're bringing in a guy that calls his own plays, that calls his system, that has plays that he can put down. I love that Ben is willing to put together a staff that allows everybody to have an input. And he talked about that during the offseason. He talked about, we get plays from everywhere, and we have guys that have a ton of input throughout the week. And that's how you continue to be great. It's what Andy Reid has done in so many different spots. It's what we see Sean McVay do a bunch of different times. And so it's very interesting to see, like, he's continuing to build that. It speaks to a coach that knows what he's doing. And I think how Ryan said it, he doesn't feel like a first-year head coach.
Yeah. No, there really weren't many moments that you felt this year like Ben Johnson really had to take his, lick his wounds from, like, the first time head coach stuff. Because even
Detroit, maybe.
I don't know though.
First Detroit.
The first Detroit game just felt like a team that wasn't ready yet to compete.
Yeah.
And sure, any coach, whether you're a first time head coach or anybody, is going to have a confounding loss every once in a while. But there weren't moments, and it's no shade on Ryan Poles, but I think back to, like, there were some definitely welcome to the, obviously he'd been in the NFL, like, welcome to your job as a GM sort of moments where swings and misses.
Yeah.
Like, multiple of those early on in his career, to where now he probably looks back at that, and I would imagine for some of them he would say, I could have done this one differently.
Yeah.
I will say with Ben Johnson, it doesn't feel like there was any sort of moment where you're like, man, he's probably going to want that back, because every single week that there was something that went wrong with a play call or a play design, he was willing to say, I screwed up here with this.
Yeah.
And then you usually didn't see the same mistakes show up in the next week. And even today, when he was talking about the last play of the game in overtime, that if it was a miscommunication, which it was, but in his eyes, without having to like go through the whole play, because he's already, as we know, he's already on to 2026.
Yeah.
He said, if it's a miscommunication, that's on me.
Yeah.
I don't believe that to really be the case. I think that that's between quarterback and wide receiver, but he continues to do those sorts of things that oftentimes a young head coach who's doing this for the first time doesn't do. But in bigger picture than that, the preparation level of this team reflects that of a well-oiled machine that looks like it's been here before, but hasn't. Like, it's its first time. And I think that's one of his biggest accomplishments, that he had them ready to go. And there really weren't any drop-offs from like week to week with this group.
The one thing I will agree with from the national media that does have to improve, and I think Ben said as much, is, and even Ryan, like, it is going to be tough for you to live this world again next year, where you cannot be in this position. And so it's going to be very interesting to see kind of how they navigate this offseason to make sure that you're not in this position again, because a lot of it does come down to simple stuff. Hey, you don't pressure a quarterback. How many weeks do we say, if you don't get pressure on X, Y, and Z quarterback, he will kill you? Like, that was our entire season, and you've got a first-place schedule next year. We've seen this be the time where coaches usually have that, oh, dang, I hit the wall a couple of times here because these teams are a lot tougher. Although you did play, I mean, you came into the season, toughest schedule. You can't control guys getting banged up. That's the bottom line in there. We got to take a quick break just to talk about our sponsors here. Big shout out to Underdog. You can download the app today, sign up with the promo code CBP to score $75 in bonus entries, and you play your first $5. That's promo code CBP. Playing Underdog is so easy. All you do is just pick your favorite player, whether they'll go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. Only a couple more weeks of this. You can also get in on the Pro Bowl. Or maybe call the hotline if you're in on the Pro Bowl. I'm just saying, if you're in on the Pro Bowl, get them right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. That's right, 5,000 times your cash. Underdog, make picks, win money. EOQ, the disclaimer.
Must be 18 years or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or over in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
I love that my husband's so handy. He leaves more money for the important stuff. Gosh darn it, Steve.
Oh, don't be like Steve. Call Avondale Roofing. DIY is for Pinterest, not your roof.
Welcome back in here, Chicago Bears Podcast. Pat, the designer, Courtney Cronin, back at it again. It's brought to you today by the Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, or they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana. Las Vegas-style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field, exit 6, right off of I-80-94. All right, one more thing that I thought was pretty massive today is we got some updates, Courtney, on some injury updates, a long list of injury updates, and a couple of people who I think one of the most important that we saw develop this year, Ozzie Trapillo, of course, sounded like he's not going to be back until later on in the season. But run through the injuries real quick that we got.
The long-term ones that Ryan Poles mentioned, Ozzie Trapillo and Noah Sewell, because when they got hurt and both of them had surgery, they're beginning the rehab process. Jalen Johnson hurt his wrist in the last game. So against the Rams, Poles called it minor. Because we know that like his offseason is going to be recovering from core surgery. Yeah. He has made no qualms about, I am not who I want to be. I'm not going to be able to get back to that Pro Bowl caliber player until he has a full offseason to rehab. And then there are the others like Shamar Turner, Dio Dangbo, TJ Edwards, Karan Amagaji progressing with the rehab. So, when the spring program starts, I think several of those guys probably won't be in position. Obviously, TJ had a pretty significant injury.
Yeah, I was shocked that he was like, he'll probably be back.
I thought that was going to be in the long-term one, but, I mean, he did get hurt, I guess, a week before.
And it's a bone. Bone heals quicker than
I guess.
Was it broken femur?
No, I think it was his ankle. But it's either way, that's one that goes into a different bucket from how Poles mentioned that. But the Ozzy Trapilo one being, the biggest thing that they have to figure out, because he, ruptured his patellar tendon. That's a knee injury. It's a pretty significant one. And to think that they had an answer at left tackle, now it's like, all right, well, you're not going to have him for a while.
Fractured fibula.
Fibula. Okay. So also a
How the
lower
heck are
leg
you
injury.
Coming back for the
I know.
Shout out to the Warriors on this team.
I just was surprised by that. Like that was not considered long term.
Yeah.
But anyways, the Trapilo one's concerning.
No,
really concerning because they're going to have to figure out in free agency, how do they find a veteran who can step in right away, because it does not sound like he's a lock to be ready early next season. Poles had no timetable on it, but you would think like he'll be ready by next season. We anticipate by week 1 he'll be healed. However you'd want to phrase it, he didn't do that. So.
I think he said deep into the season probably when you might be able to get him back. And listen, it's a massive injury. I dropped this on Twitter, and it's each person is their own person. Sure. So you don't know how it's going to work for Ozzy, but just the raw numbers. They did a study on USA Today and decided a study from the Orthopedic Journal of Sports Medicine where they did an analysis on NFL players who tore their patellar tendon.
Yep.
Between 2009 and 2023. So we all just saw a guy come back, Nakobe Dean. Mm-hmm. He looks pretty good. But it does paint a grim picture. The overall return to play for patellar tendon tears was 55.4%, 31 of 56 players. For players with tears, 21.4%, so 12 of 56 returned to their performance level within 2 years, with 7 players doing so that next season. Ozzy is incredibly young. The hope is that he'll be able to bounce back from this, figure this out. But that is a spot that I think you have to have some serious focus on going into next season because, 1, he's not going to be ready to start the season. Sure. 2, you got to re-sign Theo Bernadette. I believe he is a free agent this year.
I just look at the last game. They didn't have him play left tackle. Like, is that not all of a sudden now you're going to?
Yeah.
Unless you think another offseason, he'll have a chance to be a stopgap for you until Trapilo can come back, because you're not going to draft somebody. You're not going to create a logjam at the position.
You've got Karan already. Braxton's gone, ain't he?
Yeah, he's a free agent.
He's a free agent. Yeah.
There's no real need to re-sign him, but
maybe.
I think this is a big, there's never left tackles that are like the elite guys that hit free agency. It just doesn't happen. So if you sign somebody in free agency, is that player as on the same level as Theo Bernadette? Do you just roll with Theo Bernadette? Yeah. This is a bigger question than I think we have answers to right now, because Joe Thuney's not going to be moving from left guard. That's his position. That was an emergency option that they had to use this past week against the Rams. In terms of importance, I know we're talking about the pass rush, and that has to be priority number 1. I think you have to answer this one first.
This is high.
You cannot mess up what you've built already with the offensive line by creating a revolving door at left tackle.
And what I will say is this, and maybe, this is not the approach that Ryan Poles will take, but to me, you saw how good Caleb Williams became when that left tackle was solidified. You saw the quarterback that could stand out there and feel comfortable and deliver the football, and all of a sudden we see this uptick of offense, and the offense is moving in the right direction. I think you might need to address this kind of high in the draft. In worst case scenario, I get the logjam conversation, but worst case scenario, you put yourself in a position where you go, we got 2 good left tackles and we got to trade one of them. That's a good spot to be in if you are there, right? Because
feels unrealistic though, because every team wishes they could have that.
Sure, you got to find the guy again.
Yeah, and they found something with Ozzy Trapilo, and now they're going to be without it for a significant period of time. And even the numbers that you referenced, doesn't sound like a full recovery is always expected. That's alarming. And Poles said that he's had the conversation with Ozzy that this is going to be part of his journey. He's got a mountain to climb is the way that he phrased it. I think they're bracing for the worst, honestly, just the way that they've positioned it, that this could be something that takes him a lot of time to get back from.
So is this a spot where, because, right, I agree with you. I do think they're bracing for the worst. That would mean to me, you got to find your next left tackle of the future, possibly, in case this doesn't work out, he doesn't come back. Is that more of a free agent fix for a year, and you just pray to the heavens that Ozzie figures it out? And again, he's young. His body may react differently than some of the people. One of these guys that tore it, that was in this study, was Jimmy Graham, who had a heck of a career after. He tore it when he was in Seattle. He had good years after that in Seattle. He went Green Bay after that, I want to say, and had some solid years there. Came to the Bears and had some good years here. So it is a position that you can bounce back from. But if you're preparing for the worst, to me, that means find the replacement. I think you're living more in the world of figure out next season. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think you're thinking draft. Number one, they're drafting in the late 20s.
Yep.
So you're not going to be in a position probably to it's a day 2 grade on somebody. You're not getting a starting left tackle down there more times than not.
I was going to say, that's who we're talking about.
No, but yeah.
Ozzie is who we're talking about, a day 2 guy.
But he wasn't ready right away.
He wasn't.
You would run into that exact same situation with a guy that you would draft 20. Where are they drafting? 25? Okay, yeah, I would not take that gamble for this year. That's why I think the veteran option, if they go that route, if they say, hey, the guys on our roster are good as in a pinch, but we need somebody who can get us through 17 games, like as they wait out to figure out what the situation is, I don't think they can make any long-term declarations. They've got to take this as a year-by-year approach, because if he can't come back, like, you're not going to know that for a while. Yeah. So free agents.
And next year he's probably not.
Probably not trading for one either, because trading for a left tackle is expensive.
Yeah.
Like, I think you just try to fill the void the best you can on a 1-year stopgap situation.
And that is kind of the guys you have, right? In theory, it didn't look very good. And he really fell out of the competition when we were in training camp this year. Essentially, basically just like, maybe he's a guard. But there is a left tackle on the roster in Karan Amagaji. Okay. All right. Well,
I think that ship has sailed.
I think
they're the ones who pushed the boat out of the harbor. He is a guard. They couldn't even figure out a way.
Are you telling me they're sending him to Valhalla? They're sending the fiery arrows into the ship.
They there's no way. Like, They gave the guy every chance possible to be a left tackle, and they're like, all right, we got to figure out some way to keep you on the roster because you're a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
We're going to move you inside to guard, and then he's gone for the whole season because he's on IR. Yeah, no.
It'll be very interesting to see what they do with that position because, again, like, you saw how different Caleb looked. I mean, heck, you see the amazingness of the last play, but you also see the failure. I shouldn't say the last play of regulation. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. He's Stephen Curry, basically. Yeah. Turn around.
It's a great comp.
Jump shot. Remember Stephen Curry would take shots and we go, terrible shot.
How did that go in?
Jesus, he made it. Okay. And eventually we just started going, that's a good shot for him. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what these throws from Caleb Williams are. You don't want to see your quarterback running backwards, turn around, launch to the end zone for a game-tying shot there. But the part that stood out to me was it was the one play, and Ryan Poles talked about Jordan McFadden. Apparently he had something with his ankle
also had an injury
to finish that game, and he played the rest of the game. But, you saw where you needed Joe Thuney on the left side a little bit because Jordan McFadden got pushed right out of the way, and there were 4 guys in the face of Caleb Williams. There was a lot of guys that got pushed out the way, but there were 4 guys in the face of Caleb Williams. So it's something where you have to address it because I feel like some of those great throws that we've seen have come from that lack of protection we've had since Ozzie has gone out of the game. So it's going to be interesting to see how they address that one. I hope that that's something that we're not talking about the entire offseason because that was something that we were talking about the entire offseason. And I don't think you want to move Darnell at this point.
No, I think
you've got all pros.
He's got a
there.
Great spot over at right tackle. He's 2nd-team All-Pro.
Yeah.
From where he started the season, where he started in training camp, where he's getting called out for, losing motor on certain plays to now finishing as one of the All-Pros. I don't think you want to mess with that.
Let's finish it out with this, Courtney. Is there any of the because a lot of the conversation we had at the beginning, you got to trade somebody to go after a big name. Is there a big money guy on this team that you think will not be here by the start of camp next year?
I know DJ Moore's name has obviously gotten floated, but
Cole Kmet too.
Yeah, who's clamoring right now to get DJ Moore? Would it be the Raiders?
That needs a receiver
for a quarterback,
for a young quarterback,
which the Raiders seem like that team.
Yeah.
Do they? I don't know. I mean, I could see DJ moving on because of, I don't want to make it seem like, oh, well, he messed up one play here at the end. And I know there have been body language things with him, and there have been moments where you're like, the chemistry just seems a little off between him and Caleb Williams.
We've said not on the same page too often with it.
I think it would, if they move him, it would be because they're ready to set the other two guys, like take the reins off them and let them go free, because they're ready to see Luther Burden at his absolute like highest capacity, and Rome Odunze, if Rome's ready. Remember, I don't think you get rid of DJ or even consider moving on from him unless you have that answer on Rome Odunze. I think you hold on to him if there's still some like questions about Rome's foot and the health and getting back to the player that he was those first 7 games. But I could see, big money guy, like, who wants to take on that contract? I could see the Bears having to like restructure that and then trade him, or even Montez Sweat has a pretty significant deal. He came on, about a third of the way into the season. They were happy with it, but he is still not giving you the type of production that you might expect of somebody making $25.5 million a year. So potentially, but I think it's too early to tell right in this very moment how they approach until we start to see what the priorities are going to be when they go to Indianapolis next month.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, like, I've said to me, like, I think you get great DBs with great pass rush. If somebody called about JJ, I wouldn't hang the phone up right away. Tremaine's an interesting one. Tremaine played well, got hurt, and then kind of struggled after that.
Yeah.
That just kind of speaks to injury in the NFL. Like, Tremaine was really good this season until he ended up missing the 4 weeks, and then, you come back right ahead of the playoffs, and he didn't look that great in the playoffs, but he still was solid for you. That's one where I think I keep my eye on the most. Is Tremaine Edmonds a staple of this defense moving forward? Or I didn't see much to tell you. So you did draft Ruben Hippolyte in the 4th round. What's his goal or role on this team at all?
Didn't have one the back end of the season. He was inactive all those games.
And was healthy.
Mm-hmm. Healthy scratch.
We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. But we'll keep you guys updated with everything going on here. I don't know why I had a stroke right there. With the Chicago Bears, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. For Courtney Cronin, it's your boy Pat the Designer. Back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down. One love. Peace.